maybe because it seemed to have been organized on quite short notice, it did not go great. I'll show you what I mean. See if you can follow his logic here.
When the Doge group got together and they went with the different agencies and they said that they need to target, try to target a certain amount of folks for employment, that was handed over to the agencies. So all the people that you've heard about being released from different agencies, that was on the agency itself. It had nothing to do with Doge. So let's remember that. And there's also a way to seek redress if you think that there's somebody out there that should not have been terminated for employment. Get a hold of the Doge folks directly or through us, and we'll help try to rectify that.
Things keep getting worse for Donald Trump, and it's really hard for me not to smile and laugh and jump for joy when I say that, because it's not just hitting Trump, it is hitting MAGA, it is hitting Republicans in Congress, and it is also hitting the right-wing media, which is struggling to defend Donald Trump and kind of eating itself alive as some members of Fox propaganda outlet or any other right-wing outlet start to criticize Donald Trump, and they know he is performing so badly that not only are they criticizing him, but they're just cutting away from everything he does because they know he is digging his own grave. And we saw that today during an Oval Office presser with the Prime Minister of Ireland when Donald Trump started attacking reporters and just melting down. Was an absolute disaster that we're going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really does mean a lot to me. And before we get into those crazy attacks on reporters, we got to start on Donald Trump's attack on our neighbor to the north. Glad because electricity shouldn't be playing with electricity. It affects people's lives, actually their life. I mean, it can affect, depending on weather, can affect their life. So we can't do that. And it doesn't make sense that our country allows electricity to be made in another country and sold into us. Who did that? Deal for the United States. Okay, I've looked at that long ago and I said, that's not something that's very smart. I talked about this in a previous video. But the irony baked into Donald Trump's statement, oh, what a horrible thing to attack your ally, to attack your neighbor. They're cutting off our electricity that could hurt people when he is the one who started this trade war. When he is the one, as Justin Trudeau has stated, actively trying to tank the Canadian economy and hurt Canadians, is just absolutely ridiculous. And by the way, that agreement that he was talking about Donald Trump's son, yeah, it's almost like all the things he has done have backfired on him, are hurting our country. I saw a poll recently that said Kamala Harris would win 48-41 in Michigan if the election was held again. Today, how did you not know this was going to happen? We tried to warn you. It's absolutely crazy. Donald Trump continues to screw everyone over, and he's got his own explanation for what's actually happening. So we've had a lot of bad trade policy, and yet we're doing very well right now. But we're doing well because I won the election. If I didn't win the election, you would have had a very bad period. I think a lot of the stock market going down was because of a really bad 4 years that we had. When you look at inflation and all of the other problems, wars and inflation and so many other problems. But what a ridiculous point to make. What a...
Glad because electricity, you shouldn't be playing with electricity. It affects people's lives. Actually their life. I mean, it can affect, depending on weather, it can affect their life. So we can't do that. And it doesn't make sense that our country allows electricity to be made in another country and sold into us. Who did that deal for the United States? Okay, I looked at that long ago, and I said, that's not something that's very smart.
Ridiculous claim. What a ridiculous accusation. And it's a question that I really think needs to be asked of Trump or Carolyn Levitt is, when does the Trump administration officially begin? Because we saw Lit say today, well, we're only about 50 days into it. Give us some time. Well, didn't Donald Trump claim back in November that the stock market was exploding so much that he wanted his term to start early, that the economy was doing so well he wanted his term to start early? So which is it? The Donald Trump's presidency already began back when things were going well under Joe Biden, or has it not yet started now that Donald Trump has caused so much chaos? They can't really make up their mind, and they're really upset with anyone who tries to ask them about music. No, that's enough, Kel, this second. Donald Trump hears the word market, he's done. He doesn't want to talk about the stock market, which was the measure that he used to determine success in the previous administration because he was relying on Barack Obama's economy. President Obama is who set up the economic success that we saw, experienced during the Trump administration, of course, not for all, for some, of course, the success that we saw in the market relatively low. Unemployment that was all because of Barack Obama, which again returns to the point, or I guess the question, when does the Trump administration begin? If he took credit for President Obama's economy, why isn't he taking credit or accountability really for him tanking the economy? Because he doesn't care. They're quite literally trying to come up with different measures and different metrics to track how well the economy is doing, because it is in free fall. When you're saying that we have to change the way the game is scored, you're probably losing the game. And again, it's the reason Trump doesn't want to take questions, because he knows he can't frame it in his narrative. Just take a look at this, right? Here you might target your next travel. Van say, can you say which countries you target in your next travel? Wouldn't that be a stupid thing for me to say? Said, which countries am I going to target for the next travel be? Can you believe somebody would ask that question? Whenever Donald Trump calls a question stupid, that's when you know that question is a really good question. And it's really just, it's eating them alive. He cannot take it. She cannot take questions. He cannot take the pressure. Sure, he just can't deal with the fact that he is so obviously and so blatantly caused the thing that he talked about the most to spiral. Donald Trump's claim is that he would fix an economy that was already booming, that he would lower high prices, and that he'd make everything cheaper for everyone, and the exact opposite has happened very quickly, and specifically because of him, you know. There's this myth, this false narrative, that Republicans are trying to push that Joe Biden is responsible for the surge in egg prices, which one isn't true, but let's pretend that it is. Let's say that Joe Biden, as they're trying to say, killed a bunch of chickens or whatever they're pushing, let's say Joe Biden is specifically responsible for eggs and eggs alone. What about everything else that's much more expensive? Did he cause all of that with his chicken action or whatever? He didn't. Everything is up. This is not just about eggs. This is about the economy that you have destroyed very quickly, and already it is shocking to not come up with a good explanation for it if Ox realizes that that's why they cut away from Trump right here. But I hope to be able to get, President, does America have a future in NATO? What said, does America have a future in NATO? Well, NATO has to treat us fairly if they pay their bills and if they do what they're supposed to do. When I first got involved with NATO, as you know, they weren't paying their bills. There were 28 countries, and most of them weren't paying, and I got them to pay, and they paid billions and billions of dollars. I made a certain statement that I'm not going to be involved with NTU unless you're going to pay your bills. And I was asked the question, if we don't pay, are you going to help us? I said, no, if you don't pay, you're saying you're delinquent, a real estate term. You're delinquent, all right. So President Tra, together with the Taoiseach of Ireland, Mail Martin, talking about they do not want him talking about the economy. They do not want him talking about NATO, really anything to do with foreign policy. They just don't want him talking, and I can't blame them. It is their job to propaganda for Donald Trump. It is their job to soften the edges. It is their job to make him look better, and that's impossible to do when he is speaking because he just looks bad. This is the problem for all Republicans right now, and it's the reason why someone in independent media, myself, I am so advocating for Democrats to go into independent media, to be everywhere all the time. Always great example of that is Chris Murphy constantly speaking AOC. Bernie's anti-oligarchy tour. There is vacuum that needs to be filled with Democratic messaging right now, and we can get after that. We have to talk while they run away. Speaking of run away, Rachel Maddow did some great reporting on just that in politics, a long line of people usually means a long line of voters waiting to cast a ballot. But this long line, this is constituents who are actually waiting their turn to speak to one person. They're waiting in line to try to speak to their member of Congress, who is Republican Kevin Kiley. They are waiting in line in Congressman Kiley's office in Nevada City, California, so they can each, one by one, ask him to please hold a town hall with them. We haven't seen him in person. We have so many things, so many issues of course, the economy, Social Security, the environment, veterans. Concerns education, the education Department of Education. The tariffs ABC 10 asked Kylie if he plans to.
But I hope to be able to get there.
Mr. President, does America have a future in NATO?
What's that?
Does America have a future in NATO?
Well, NATO has to treat us fairly. If they pay their bills and if they do what they're supposed to do. When I first got involved with NATO, as you know, they weren't paying their bills. There were 28 countries, and most of them weren't paying. And I got them to pay. And they paid billions and billions of dollars. I made a certain statement that I'm not going to be involved with NATO unless you're going to pay your bills. And I was asked a question, if we don't pay, are you going to help us? I said, no, if you don't pay, you're saying you're delinquent. A real estate term. You're delinquent.
All right, so President Trump, together with the Taoiseach of Ireland, Michael Martin.
Have a town hall anytime soon, he says, because his district is so large, Tet. Town halls have been more convenient for him and his constituents, and that one is in the works. So I think we have our next one scheduled pretty soon, within the next week or two, something like that. We'll do them with them once a month or something like that through the rest of this year. But Kylie's congressional website shows there are no scheduled upcoming Tell-It town halls or in-person meetings. ABC 10 reached out to his office to get a comment regarding town hall meetings and a response to the criticism, but his spokesperson did not provide an update. I'm sure we've got one scheduled. I'm sure it's don't look at my website. Can we schedule something? Don't schedule something with no official town hall on. The schedule, the local indivisible chapter plans to hold their own town hall for Congressman Kylie's constituents. They're going to do that on March 20th, perhaps. Congressman Kylie will tell Aorden or something. Meanwhile, check out what's happening in New Jersey for several weeks now. People in the congressional district, represented by Republican Congressman Tom Caney, have been asking him to hold a town hall as well. So far, no joy. But somebody's going on to fill that vacuum now that the Democratic former congressman who used to hold that seat, who lost that seat to Tom Kean in 2022, he says he's ready to go, and he'll do it. Former Democratic Congressman Tom Malinowski has now announced that he will hold an in-person town hall in his very competitive former district on Thursday night this week, because the Republican who represents that district now is apparently too afraid to do it. Consider also what's going on in Wisconsin. Republican Congressman Derek Van Orton has been refusing to hold a town hall with his constituents. As well this weekend, Democratic Congressman Mark Poan, who represents a neighboring district he stepped into, hold one this weekend simply essentially to take in the slack. Congressman Poe and arranged to hold the town hall that he had this weekend way over in the corner of his district, about as close as he could get to the neighboring Republican district that's represented by Derek Van Orton. He invited Congressman Van Orton to show up. The congressman did not, but his constituents did. Karen and Mark Essex live in Van Orton's district and say that they're upset at the representative for not being transparent with them. He doesn't do any town halls and very disappointed in that he's not representing us. He didn't show up, and he's unwilling to talk about the basic issues that we have. The local news station WK wrote up the event like this, quote, in a town with just over 1,000 residents, hundreds of people packed the village of Belmont's community building Saturday. The building was filled to capacity, with people even waiting outside and peeking through the windows to hear Congressman Mark Pocan. Now, of course, Republicans are running scared. They want to escape their constituents, but the important things happening, it's maybe a little vague. You're going to see where I'm going with this. There's still important stuff happening at the local level, and one example that I really want to bring up is how Elon Musk is attacking our country, of course, all over the place, but very locally. He is trying to buy the most important Supreme Court race right now in the country, in Wisconsin, trying to install an extremist Republican instead of someone who will protect the rights of the people in Joe's son, Susan Crawford, because he knows that they're losing support all over the country. So this is kind of a last-ditch effort to try to help Republicans before things really start to collapse, and we have to make sure we're fighting back against this. So linked below, I will put lots of links for you to be able to support Susan. It goes a long way. This is an important race, and we need your support. I'm actually going to be talking to the chair of the Democratic Party in Wisconsin, Ben Wickler, later this week, so Look forward to that, but please give her your support. It is incredibly important. And also you can support this show as well by hitting that subscribe button, by leaving a like on this video, and if you stuck around in the end, you drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.